my college professor was giving us a gift, an open notebook final. It's a pretty good gift. All you have to do is bring your notebook with all your notes, assuming you took good notes throughout your year. I'm sure all of you always took good notes in all your classes. All you have to do is bring your notebook, and you can answer all the questions on the final exam. You were allowed to bring your notebook and anything you wanted to put in your notebook, any extra things you wanted to write, any notes you wanted to make. You could even Xerox pages from the textbooks and put in your notebook for the final exam. I mean, you'd pretty much have to work really hard not to make an A on that exam as long as you brought your notebook, which I did not. The man owed a lot of money. Now, when I say he owed a lot of money, I mean it was a ton of money, and it was time to pay up. He got the notice in the mail and an email, and again when the large men with swords showed up at his door. It was time to see the king. Now, when I say he owed a ton of money, what I really mean is he owed an impossible amount of money. 10,000 talents. Let me just put that in perspective for you. Herod the Great might have been the richest man to have ever lived. We'll learn a lot more about him in December. He built a mountain. He built the mountain just to put a fortress on top of it. He built a giant city and harbor and covered the entire outside with marble because he wanted it to look pretty. He reshaped the desert and so on. The guy was loaded. Even he could never repay 10,000 talents. 10,000 talents was more than the entire coffers of Rome. Let's just put that in perspective another way. At the average yearly rate of pay for even a decently well-off person in Israel, it would take about 125,000 years to pay back 10,000 talents, and you thought your student loans were bad. And that's without interest, by the way. It was impossible to owe that much money. Jesus is using hyperbole and a bit of humor to emphasize just how much trouble this man was in and just how much grace he was given. The king gives the man a great gift: no more debt. And think of all the students who have been clamoring for student loan forgiveness. I know someone who took out $26,000 in loans, has paid back $35,000, she still owes another $45,000. Imagine if you told her, your debt is wiped out, you're good to go. She could start saving for retirement. We have a whole generation of people who don't work in jobs with pensions, but are unable to start saving for retirement until that debt is paid off. Imagine the gift that would be. I mean, this should be a happy story about the gift of grace. The king gives the in-debt servant a gift. It's the gift of freedom, the gift of a future, the gift of life, the gift of a second chance. My friend would love a gift like that. Some of us who had school completely paid for or went to college at a time when you could actually work a job while in school that would pay for all your classes, we aren't always fully aware of the gift we have been given. Even if we worked to put ourselves through school, that was still a gift, because you can't do that now. But some of my friends drowning in debt from college, from seminary, they know how valuable that gift would be. The servant should be skipping and jumping and hugging everyone he meets on the way home, proclaiming how great and wonderful the king is, how grateful he is, even better than Oprah when she gives out her free stuff to the people in the audience, and they're that happy? This guy should have been more happy. But the parable in Matthew it's not a happy story. It's a tragic story. The servant, upon leaving with a wonderful gift, sees someone who owes him less than a day's pay. And the servant, while carrying this priceless gift, drops it, leaving it on the sidewalk to grab the collar of a man who owes him a few bucks. "Give me my money," he says. "Please, I don't have it. Could you be merciful and spare me?" says the man, now on his knees. It should be a deja vu moment for the servant who had himself just prostrated himself and begged for a gift in front of the king. But he doesn't relent. He wants his money. And now some guards of the king have seen this man throw the gift down on the sidewalk to go after this other man. They know how priceless the gift is. They find it strange. Why would you leave such a great gift behind? They pick it up and take it back to the king. Now, I've heard several people get mad at this story because the king takes back the gift and throws the servant in jail. You can't give a gift and then take it back. That's like the government giving Native American tribes treaties and then ripping them up when it's not convenient. That's not how it works. That's not what is happening here. I think the king is just picking up the gift the servant threw away. He threw that gift away, an invaluable gift, forgiveness of 10,000 talents, to try to grab a couple denarii, a couple bucks. He threw the gift away. The king didn't seize it. He retrieved a rejected gift. Why would that servant, who owed so much, who was given such a wonderful gift like that, just throw it away? He didn't trust the gift. Now, an open notebook final is a pretty good gift. If you have any sense whatsoever, that should be an automatic A, as long as you bring your notebook, which I said I did not. It was not because I was lazy. It's not that I forgot it. It's not that I never took notes. I know what you're thinking. I actually studied really hard. I just didn't believe the professor was serious. I thought it was a cruel joke. I spent all my time studying the material. I didn't utilize the gift. Now, when the exam came, I wish I had my notes, because while it was indeed an open notebook test, it was a particularly hard test in light of that fact. We were given a gift, and I dropped it on the sidewalk when I walked out of that class. So how do I know the servant didn't trust the gift? I will tell you why, because that's such a great question you asked. I know that because what happened when he left the king and met the guy who owed him money simply could not have happened had he really received the gift. It would have been utterly impossible had he really been forgiven of that debt and received it. He wouldn't have even noticed the guy if the guy presented himself and said, "Hey, I owe you $20, I got it." He'd say, "What $20? He was just forgiven $100 billion. What's $20? The man in the parable couldn't trust the gift. He couldn't allow himself to accept it, to really believe he had been forgiven. It's why he threw it on the sidewalk the first chance he got and went after something he could trust and receive, a debt owed to him. Give me my money, I want to feel it. Why wouldn't he receive the gracious forgiveness that was offered? I'll tell you why. Because he went to the same Sunday school as I did. Do you remember that lesson? It says, never take anything from anybody. Everyone's got to pull their own weight. No handouts. You work for what you get. Nothing's free. We learn God helps those who help themselves, though that's nowhere in the Bible. In fact, really the opposite may be true. Something we talked about in Sunday school today, but we still learn that lesson. There's this cultural bit to white Christianity that goes back to Max Weber's Protestant work ethic and the Puritans that suggests we've earned everything we've received, and if we're doing good in life, it's because God loves us more. There are no gifts, we tell ourselves. We buy the myth that we pulled ourselves up by our own bootstraps, but no one ever really does that. There's always help. There's always privilege. There's always circumstance. Pretending otherwise is just not accepting the gifts we've been given. Last year, I was talking to a friend who's a bit older than I am. We were talking about the GI Bill and how it helped her father go to school and to get his first house. She believed he earned those gifts, fighting in the war, serving his country, that they were for anyone. She'd never really thought to be grateful for it. It was just a fact. He got what he earned. But then she read a book and learned that what she'd always assumed wasn't true. She learned that the government did indeed give out millions under the GI Bill, but only 4% went to returning black and brown soldiers. From 1934 to 1963, the federal government underwrote $120 billion in new housing loans, but less than 2% went to people of color. She learned that of over 400,000 African American soldiers in World War II, less than 5% were able to take advantage of the GI Bill. She learned some of the reasons why minority soldiers weren't able to take advantage of those benefits. She realized it wasn't as automatic as she thought. She realized it wasn't just her father that worked hard and got what he deserved. She never really appreciated the advantages she was given. Just given, not necessarily earned. She said, for the first time, I was truly grateful for what my father received. 60 years later, she accepted the gift, while mourning others didn't receive the same opportunity. I wonder if we've really ever accepted the gifts of our privilege, of which we all have some. We each have gone through different trials and tribulations. We each have had to overcome obstacles and challenges, but we each have been given great gifts we did nothing to earn. Sometimes I think about growing up, the fact that I had books to read that were my very own books. Ever think about that? I never had to worry about what I was going to eat, if there was going to be food on the table. I traveled around the country, even around the world, and was exposed to all these different cultures and historical pieces of information. I had good teachers. I had parents who were home who taught me things. I've taken that for granted. Maybe you have too. Sometimes we don't see it as a gift. But when you meet someone who hasn't had those opportunities, and you see the hungry, mournful look in their eye, wishing they had what you had, you start to think of it as a gift, or a little bit more. See, my problem is, I confess, I sometimes think I earned those gifts, though. And when I think I earned them, it makes me a little more stingy with giving. It makes me resentful when others get what I may consider a leg up or a handout. I confess that's part of the shadow side of my own soul. I confess I'm trying to understand the gifts I've been given and really receive them, especially the ones I've done nothing to merit. All gifts are like that. If you've earned a gift, it's not a gift. It's payment for services rendered. You know, the servant who was summoned to the king, that could have been you, could have been me. In fact, perhaps it is. Let's just try it out. The king calls us in to see him. We know what he wants. We haven't given what we should to the king. We haven't acted as we should. We haven't followed his laws. We have not been good citizens of his kingdom. We haven't been good stewards of the king's resources he entrusted to us. We are massively in debt. The king comes out with this huge ledger book, plops it on the table, opens it up to find the page where your name or my name is written in the top right-hand corner. The king looks at the bottom line and says here you owe me a lot. Is this figure even right? It says you're in debt for over 1 million zillion. Is this correct? And every last one of us here must answer, that's correct, sir. Indeed, I'm heavily in debt. Even 125,000 years of effort would not suffice to repay this debt. Just take a moment. Think about how those debts have added up. The wrongs, the failures to do right, the thoughts, the actions, the attitudes, the withholding of help, the looking down on others who aren't able to climb as high as we are while we're sitting on a ladder they have no access to. The stinginess, the selfishness, the self-preservation, the protection of privilege. Imagine what that sheet looks like. Do you see your sheet? Are you feeling nervous? I know I am. I don't know about you, but I hope my sheet never gets out on WikiLeaks. I hope someone doesn't ever record me at my worst, because I know what my worst is. What if your worst was made public? your worst actions, your worst thoughts, your worst words? What if everyone knew them? See, the king already knows, though. He has it all written down. Your worst is right there on that page. But you know what the king does? He takes that sheet with your name and with mine and rips it out of the book. And he rips it to shreds and looks down at us and says, I want to give you a gift. I forgive you of your debt. I forgive you of your worst. You are free and clear from that. That is not who you are. It's gone. Go in peace. Do you know what that means to those of us who can receive the gift? For those of us who can let ourselves off the hook, do you know what that means? It means a lot of things. But I'll tell you the first thing it means. It means nobody's going to have to tell us how to act when we see someone else who needs that gift. It means we're not going to throw the gift on the sidewalk as soon as someone wrongs us or we have a chance to hold something of ourselves back for our own privilege, for our own pleasure. It means we're going to receive the gift and hold on to it with everything we have, even if that means loosening our grip on other things, our time, our talent, our treasure, because the gift we have just received is so much more valuable. It means we're going to be grateful and we're going to show with a gift of our own. Try to make sure others have access to the same gift to know about it. That is, if we've really received the gift. If we've received this gift of grace and the multitude of other gifts we received, all of us who are sitting in this sanctuary right now. So how do you know you have? How do you know if you've actually received the gift? Do you get a little stamp on your hand that says so? My daughter gets a stamp at preschool. She's been a good girl at preschool and listened to the teachers. So I know if she listened or not. She has a stamp. Do we have a stamp that says Jesus on our hand if we accepted the gift so we can show, oh, Jesus sticker, I'm good? No. So how do you know? I think your life reflects it. Not just by church attendance, not by saying a certain prayer or anything. You live differently when you've received the gift. That may look different from your neighbor, but you know. You know. I confess there are days that I receive it and days I forget. It changes from moment to moment. There are days I think I'm too good for the gift, and days I think others are too bad for it and don't deserve it. But the beautiful thing about confession is each time I confess, I get the gift again, a chance to receive it again and again, to be reminded the old life has passed away, the new life has come. I remember at this font and at this table how precious that gift is. But I confess I take so much for granted. Every day I forget about the gifts. Maybe you do too. The gift of grace, the gift of God's presence, the gift of community and family, maybe even the simple little things. When I was in Peoria, I learned that a majority of children there didn't own any books. Couldn't fathom it. How can you not own books? I had like a whole bookshelf in my house when I was a kid full of books. I have a whole room of books in my house now. They're in boxes, but they're there. How can you not have a book? Imagine children with no books. And so a group was formed, and they made sure 4 times a year they went to every single elementary school in Peoria, and they let every child pick a book. They picked their own book. And in the front was a little nameplate, and they were able to write their name in their very own book. Now, if I had been a kid at that school, I'd been like, great, a book. I have a bunch of books. When I want another book, I'll ask my parents for a book. I could go to the book fair and buy my own books. Meaningless, another book. But some of these kids, they couldn't believe it. They said, this book's for me? To keep? I get to take it home? And they would say, yeah, it's your book. It's a gift. It's your book. And this smile would come across their faces that could brighten a room. And they would hop and jump and run out of there holding their book, grasping it tight. My book. My book. And it was overjoyed. I wonder why we don't feel like that more often. I wonder if it's because we begin to take for granted the gift we've been given. Because in reality, every Sunday, when we share this bread and we share this cup and we get this gift, this valuable gift of Jesus' body broken, his blood shed, forgiveness, everlasting life, when we get that gift, which we wouldn't have otherwise, we ought to be running out of here, jumping, overjoyed, smiling the biggest smile we can imagine. My God's for me. This meal's for me. This grace is for me. This love is for me. And we'd hold it so tight and show to everyone we saw, look, it's my book. Look, it's my forgiveness. It's my love. It's my grace. Blessed assurance given for me. But we don't, do we? Have you received the gift? I ask myself, if I received the gift, have you? And if so, so what? What does that mean for you? How do your gifts reflect what you've been given and what you've received? How does your life change because of these gifts? God's gift to you. Or do you set it on the sidewalk and you go after other things? Only you know. But the gift is there. Grab it. Clutch it. Because it can be yours forever. Let us pray together. Almighty God, thank you for the gift of grace, the gift of your love, the gift of your presence, the gift of so many things we take for granted. Beautiful skies, family, friends, so many things. Lord, help us to receive your gifts and share them with the world, to act like you've been given the most valuable thing anyone has ever known. We pray this in your Son's name. Amen.